You're listening to the Loida Lewis Podcast, hosted by Loida Nicholas Lewis. She's a trailblazing businesswoman, leader, philanthropist, and the widow of Reginald F. Lewis, the visionary leader who was the first African American to build $1 billion company. With unparalleled determination, Loida Lewis has not only excelled as a successful attorney, but also shaped a $1 billion empire. Following the untimely passing of her husband, Reginald F. Lewis, she took the helm of TLC Beatrice, carving her legacy as a successful business leader. Be inspired and learn from her as she shares her wisdom, the secrets to her success in both business, in love, and in life. Let's live, love, laugh, and learn. With your host, Miss Loida Lewis.
Welcome to the Loida Lewis Podcast. Today, I have the honor of presenting to you a founding member of a social impact group. He is the president of the Spring Mountain Capital. But social impact group is a new concept. So here we have Gregory Ho. Welcome, Greg, for being here.
Thank you for having me, and it's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Social impact group, could you explain what that means? Because that's basically a very present concept.
Yes, it actually stems from a concept of investing in things that do good, societal good. Now, the Social Impact Group is part of a firm I started with a fellow named Lonnie Steffens in 2001. We do a variety of things, but when I took a look at something that I think is an emerging trend in investing, it involves what's called social impact investing. And in social impact investing, there's a pretty broad definition. For us, it means investing in things that, one, help underrepresented minorities get ahead, and secondly, doing it within a community so that, and doing it in a socioeconomically disadvantaged community and enabling that community to go ahead. Now, inside of that, you can choose your topic, and our topic is health and educational improvements for underrepresented minorities.
So when did you think of starting this social impact group under your the Spring Mountain Capital?
Well, it's very interesting. I grew up in the culture of McKinsey and Company, and one of the things we always did at McKinsey and Company is that we expected the leaders of the company to step aside as they saw individuals grow up and let them run the show, which meant that we had to invent ourselves and do new things. And so same thing happened in Spring Mountain Capital. The teams in growth equity grew up. The teams in special situations grew up. And it came time for me to go and create another group. And one realizes after a while is that you should do something that impacts your society, your neighbors, because that's how you find true meaning and develop what I consider true wealth. So right before the pandemic, we started thinking about and structuring social impact, what Spring Mountain would do in the area of social impact investing.
Okay, so for those who have not heard about McKinsey, it's a very, it's worldwide consulting group that corporations and big and small, but basically big because they're very expensive, will hire McKinsey in order to guide companies on what is the best way to success or to achieve maximum profit or something like that. Can you give? I gave my own idea of what McKinsey is.
You're right. We were very expensive, and so philosophy is we wanted to retain the best talent. You have to go and pay them. We wanted to do things of high impact, and the highest impact at the time that I joined was to work for large corporations on large problems. So it actually is, at the time I was a member of McKinsey, a strategy consulting firm for large corporations.
Yes. And I know a little bit because my daughter was an intern, and she told me how difficult it was just to pass through the activities that she had to go through. And for the benefit of the young people here who may be thinking, a consulting group, can you tell me, how did you join? You were there for many years?
I started as actually a lawyer, and when I was thinking of other things, investment banking or something, the search firm that approached me said, we have a very interesting proposition, and it turned out to be McKinsey and Company, and I was recruited for a particular purpose. My area as a lawyer was tax law and corporate transactions, and McKinsey at the time wanted somebody to work with the groups that would expand McKinsey from 8 countries to 40 countries. And the project was to work with the teams that set up offices in the next 32 countries.
But they identified you, although your expertise is tax law.
Yes.
And what other, a search firm usually has an idea of what the company needs and then identify. So I don't see how was the connection of your expertise in tax lead you to lead McKinsey's expansion to the rest of the world?
Oh, very good question. It was an unusually good firm, which I subsequently used because it was for an investment banking job. They did an interview and everything else, and thought I was a great candidate for the investment banking job. But they said, would you consider consulting? And at the time, I had no idea, but they thought I would fit very well in terms of working with this company. And they look beyond just the superficial qualifications, which are what did you do in particular. They look to the skill sets required to do the other job, and they said, I guess they decided I might have the skill sets, and that's why we made the leap. But that's been very informative. The same thing. You've been through various businesses and so forth, and in reality, there's certain fundamentals that can transport so that you can move between industries and sectors and so forth and apply that knowledge. That's what they thought I had.
Okay, so then we'll have to go back, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
Because what you were by that time is a product of all your backgrounds. Mm-hmm. So can I ask you, were you born in the United States, and how did your lineage come to the United States?
Yeah, it's an unusual one. I'm Chinese, and the first immigrants to the United States from China was my great-grandfather in the 1880s.
Wow.
Hopped on a boat and at age 18 was recruited actually to work in a plantation in Hawaii, rice plantation. So in the 1880s he came over, and then of course with a variety of things, Chinese blew up each other's plantations, and he wandered into Hawaii, Honolulu, and became an entrepreneur, a small businessman, and worked along. And so that was my great-grandfather.
Buying and selling things? What kind of business?
It was merchandise. And then eventually he established a bakery, which became the largest bakery in the state of Hawaii. Established slightly, I guess, over 120 years ago. Then he decided to quit the bakery business and became a butcher. And kept the bakery business. He branched out and added being a butcher to his collection of things. Went back every year, got married to a Chinese woman born in China. And when he had 21 kids through 2 wives. He took every son back to China, and every woman in my family was born in China. And then when my father came along, he met my mother, who was born in China, and so I was 5th generation, but
5th generation, yes.
On the
Father's
side, but first generation or second generation on the mother's side.
Yes. So which means to say your father was the great-grandson of the patriarch.
It was a grandson of the
grandson of the
and I'm the
patriarch.
great-grandson of
and
the
you
patriarch.
are the great-grandson,
Yes.
right. So if he is the son of the patriarch, so he must have also inherited entrepreneurial abilities, your father. So
Yes.
tell us about your father.
Yes, except that the very tough time, World War II happened, everything shut down. In reality, Hawaii was very dominated by, even though it had lots of Asians, it was dominated by a non-Asian population. Even within Hawaii, there are certain parts of Honolulu that you could not get a house. You couldn't get a mortgage from any of the established Bank of Hawaii. You could not get a mortgage as a Chinese person, so forth. So the progression was limited, money was limited, and so my father ended up going to a public school, and the bakery went bankrupt. So he ended up being a porter, so a restart on everything from a family that had accumulated 22 pieces of property in Hawaii and everything else. Which
was that because of the Exclusion Act of immigration?
my mother was born in China because of the Exclusion Act, because even though her mother was married to an American citizen, when she was pregnant, she was held in detention. My grandmother said, "I'm not going to have a baby in detention," and said, "I want to go back to China." So she went back to China, and my mother was therefore born in Canton, and didn't come over till she was, I think, 8 or 9. But by then, her father had cancer and knew him for about 1 year, and he was gone.
So the mother,
Right.
your grandmother, her mother had to raise her.
Yes, and had no reliance or ability to go back to China because the communists came over, and her side of the family was the Chiang Kai-shek part. So, but in that thread, which I think you'll find interesting, you find in the Chinese culture the strength of women come in there. And my grandmother figured it out, and the most traveled person in the family, who didn't even have high school education, figured it out, was a good mahjong gambler, constantly traveled, and there's a whole story on that. It was pretty interesting. She had a suitor, and she said, "I don't need a man in my life at this point. It's just a nuisance." So
she had, how many children did she have?
she
at
had
that
one
time?
child.
Your
because that's all-
mother.
Yeah, my mother had no. My mother had. There are 6 of us, 7 actually. One passed away as early, and so we grew up with 7 of us in the family. So,
Yes.
which was small because the average of all my other uncles and everything was 8. So
Yes. That was during that time.
yeah, during that
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So are you saying that your mother raised you by single mother?
No, her mother raised
Oh, her
her.
mother.
So my mother
Okay.
was a single child. I'm
Single
sorry.
child. Yes, yes.
I was
Okay.
not unclear on that.
Yes, yes.
My grandmother had one child, which is my mother.
Yes. Yes.
And my mother and father, being both Catholic and Chinese, proceeded to have a baby
Yes. Yes.
as often as they
No birth
could.
control in the
Right.
Catholic Church.
Yeah, no birth control in the Catholic Church.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And of the 6 your siblings,
Yes.
okay, you are number 1,
No, my sister's number 1. I'm number 2.
number 2. But being the male in a Chinese family, you're considered the eldest? Is that how it goes?
No, actually, they were pretty. My sister went to college, and it was keeping. Actually, I had my great grandfather. Interestingly, when you see in his will, he left. He made sure that every child, including all of the women in the family, were provided for to go to college. Right?
Wow,
And,
very far-reaching.
and so my parents were dead set on having a first generation to college. And so my sister went to college and became the first individual in our family to have a college degree.
Yes.
Right.
And then you were the next one.
Yes.
Okay. So since there's no one in the family to be who was a lawyer, how did you have that dream that you will be the lawyer, the first lawyer in the family?
Actually, I didn't want to be a lawyer.
You did not want to be a lawyer.
No, I did not want to be a lawyer.
All right. So
which is why I could have made the transition to investment banking. My coursework was into administrative science, or Yale's version of a business school, which was slightly different, and I think a much stronger curriculum in mathematics as well as organizational psychology.
So you went to Yale,
Yes.
Ivy League school, and you did not take English, math, and it's administrative science.
Right.
Okay.
I started as a chemistry major, but I decided I didn't want to work in a lab. So I was a chemistry major, and then
Shifted
to mathematics. And then I saw the world was beginning to open up. I shifted into international studies. And by the time I finally realized everything, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to be. So I took courses in a whole variety of subjects.
while you were at Yale.
Yes. In fact, I think something like 23 introductory courses. And then after that, I applied to business school. And I was
In Yale.
No, after Yale, I applied to business school at Stanford, because I thought Stanford, and Harvard, of course, but I thought Stanford was probably closer to what I wanted to be in terms of entrepreneurs versus big corporate. The part of it was because I didn't think, when I observed the East Coast structure back in the 70s, that Asian could make it into upper management. So the option was go start your own business. Then you can dictate the rules, which is what I'm doing currently. So in this project I mentioned to you, West Harlem Innovation Network, where we will enable people to start their own business and they can set the rules. So anyway, that's I went out there. My grandmother said, no, you're going to be a lawyer.
Oh, it was your grandmother.
Yes.
You wanted to study business in Stanford.
Yes.
And then your grandmother said
look,
yes.
you got into Columbia Law School. Why don't you go to Columbia Law School? Now, that was the first time she told my father. And my father, for the first time ever, asked me to do something. He said, listen, your grandmother would really like to have a lawyer in the family. Right? For other reasons, because she felt that her belief in the judicial system was shaken because of a family litigation that lasted 30 years. And
you mean among the siblings?
Yes, the
siblings. Your grandmother's.
Yes, my grandfather was actually married to two women simultaneously.
In China?
No, in the U.S.
In the U.S.? Oh,
so he wasn't
goodness.
married to them. He had two women as far as he was concerned.
From East Coast, West Coast, or something like that?
No, they were simultaneously and they lived together.
Oh,
Right.
so
Remember
it's followed in China. In China?
Yeah, well, in Chinese culture, men could have multiple wives.
Yes.
Right?
But that's in China.
Yes.
But he was in the United States.
He was in the United States, but he
Oh,
was
my
wealthy in the
goodness.
United States and he could make his rules.
Yes.
Which was,
And he married two women from China.
Yes.
Yes. So that's how it
He brought when he went and met his wife. He
Yes.
brought both back.
yes.
And when the junior one, who was the sort of the support for the first wife,
Yes.
grew of age,
Yes.
he told his wife, "I'm going to take her as my second wife," which was okay, and that was just the framework.
It's the culture.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
in China, I know that's
Right.
it is
Right.
it's a given.
Yes.
Yeah, for a successful
Yes.
man to have several wives.
Yeah, so they had 21 children together. They had a big enough house because the bakery business was very profitable. They had the main house where everybody mostly lived, and then they had for the concubine or the first wife a house that she could retreat to for if she wanted to do her things. The concubine had to stay in the first house or the main house.
Yes.
So
But this is all new. And for all of those listening, that's the culture in China
Yes.
at that time. And because the two women came from China, for them it's ordinary.
yes, and so even though it was illegal, and therefore they knew that, and when every child was born, the doctor signed the birth certificate saying they were born from the first
one.
wife,
Oh my goodness.
even though the first one might have given birth to a child 1 month before the second one, right? And so that caused a lot of confusion, which led to the litigation.
that took 30 years to settle.
Yes. And this was before DNA testing, and it went full circle, and everybody said that they were all children of the first wife because they lived that way,
Yes.
which was a correct setting, except my grandmother was so upset about it that it took so long that she decided that the family should have its own lawyer.
Lawyer. Yes, yes. Very practical.
Yes.
Your grandmother was very practical.
Yes, very practical.
Yes, and so you accepted that. You,
was-
as a good son, you
well-
accept your elders' advice in quotes.
You know, back then you respect your parents, and by then I realized, so what if I become a lawyer and have a law degree? I can still go back to business later on, so I went,
Yes.
and I had the option open because Stanford said anytime you ready, just let us know.
To
Give us a year notice.
yes
Right.
for business.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Great. And you did well in Columbia Law School,
I graduated, so.
but you learned the law,
Yes, I learned the law, passed the bar, and
the New York bar.
the New York bar. And
By the way, the New York bar is one of the most difficult because there's so many lawyers that want to come to New York because it's a very very good practice. New York, California, and Florida. Those are the three very very difficult bar examination. So you passed it.
yes, I passed the New York bar, and but I still want to go back to Hawaii, and so one year my law firm transferred me to L.A.
Closer
and-
to Hawaii.
Yes, closer to Hawaii. So I was working on a project, and I said, "Look, can I apply to the California bar?" So my firm said yes. So I took California bar, and I got admitted to the bar of California. So
Another difficult bar exam.
right. So you pass New York, you can pass California, right?
Yeah, but there's no reciprocity. You have to take the bar exam.
You have to take the bar
Yes.
exam, right? So so I passed that, and I thought, all right, I'll become an entertainment lawyer in Hawaii, and gradually I'm in L.A. and then work my way back to Hawaii. But that didn't happen because the McKinsey job came along, and I decided that seeing the rest of the world would be pretty interesting.
Okay, so now I understand. You are not just really a lawyer. You came from a family of entrepreneur, coming from your grandfather, your father, your mother, your grandmother. And so when this search company looked into your background, you're not just a lawyer. You're all around in that
Yes,
sense.
I guess that's what they thought.
Yes,
And when we
yeah.
sat down on it and talked about it, they realized that I had taken the equivalent of what an MBA student would learn, because I took graduate courses in all of the statistics and linear programming, stochastic processes, and so forth. And I had that, and I actually took advanced courses in organizational psychology, behavior, and everything else. So they realized you already took it. So if I went to Stanford, it was only for the validation of the MBA, because particularly if you are minority, you need that validation. Nobody's going to give you the time to explain the substance.
All right, everyone listening, preparation. He was prepared on all aspects, and the opportunity came. So that's luck. What people say luck, it's not luck. It's you're prepared, and the opportunity comes, and you seize it. And that's what happened when somebody searched you, looked at your qualification, and assigned you to McKinsey to help in the expansion.
Yes, exactly. And to your point of if the opportunity comes along, being prepared to take it, you have to get to an understanding that there are fundamentals that are all the same, and there has to be a willingness. I think in your husband's thing, he probably didn't necessarily think of food, but it operates the same way. Had a technique and the application of the tool. So I think in that, form a philosophy and understand the fundamentals, and then you realize that your skill set is a lot greater and your applicability is a lot greater. Then listen to what destiny, God puts in front of you.
Yes.
And then seize it.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Okay. So Greg mentioned my husband, Reginald Lewis. He was a practicing lawyer, but behind his mind, he was an entrepreneur. He wanted to buy business because he always said, in order to create wealth, you must do merger and acquisition. In other words, buy companies. So, and that's for everyone. That's my husband's book. Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? How Reginald Lewis Created a $1 billion Business Empire. And so, yes, very much like you, taking advantage of what's there. And since the international food was being sold on an auction, he took responsibility. I mean, he took the chance.
Right. Well, it's not only your husband's book, it's your book also. When you read it, you don't have to take notes on what Mrs. Lewis is saying. You just should read her book. These lessons are laid out in details. And there's a lot more about business and how to run a business in your book. I was very fascinated.
Thank you. Well, for those who have not heard, I have also a book taken from my husband's title, Why Should Guys Have All the Fun? And yes, it tells it's really part 2 of the story of Reginald Lewis and myself. So his is part 1 and I'm part 2. So I think, Greg, you have a story to yourself. You have a story within you to say it, to tell us. Because, as you now we'll go to the McKinsey part. Okay, were you not daunted to take on the responsibility to expand McKinsey in around the world?
Oh, it was a daunting task, but how do you learn? You learn and you improve by being challenged. So up to then, I'd only traveled once outside of the country, and that was to London with my parents after graduation. After I graduated from college, actually after I graduated from law school, I had not stepped out of the country until then. The first trip I took with McKinsey and Company, 5 countries in 5 days.
Wow! No,
and
in Europe.
In Europe,
yes, because
5
it's
countries, 5
one
days.
hour, from one country to another.
And that became a habit. It was scary, but you only improve, whether it's in sports or anything else, by challenging yourself. which is why another part of your book is, setting high goals. You set high goals for yourself. You better go and begin to challenge yourself, because you're not going to reach those high goals unless you challenge yourself.
That's right. Okay. Yes. Thank you. That's it's a part of my sort of like secrets of success. You set a goal. Set a goal for yourself. Maybe for this year. Maybe for the next 5 years. Because without a goal, it's like you're like a ship, knowing that not the wind goes here, you go there. So you're not going to reach your shore without a goal. Yeah. So the goal set before you was to expand McKinsey. So
Yes.
can you tell me how was the first one and then second one? Because it seems like you spread it to 30 countries.
I did 2 a year, and I forget which one was the first one I worked on, because simultaneously, it was a very interesting time, and it's almost as if it was lucky.
1990s?
I joined in 1982.
82.
If you think of what happened, China opened up, the Asian tigers began, South America started coming into its own, and the Berlin Wall fell.
89.
Right. So all of a sudden now, so China was coming online. We went from Mexico to Venezuela to Brazil to Argentina to Chile.
All of those were your opening as McKinsey?
Yes.
Wow.
Right. So we opened offices in all of those. We also we had to complete Europe. We were not in Scandinavia, so we opened up in Sweden, Finland, Norway, and then we were already in Copenhagen. Then the Great Wall fell, and we opened up in Berlin, and then with the breakdown of the USSR, and even the breakdown of Czechoslovakia into Czech Republic and Bratislava, Poland, Hungary, that happened. Of course, then China, Asia, India. So we set up offices in Mumbai, New Delhi, and then Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Jakarta, and so it was daunting at first, but it became very, very exciting to see the variety and the blend of cultures, which ends up being a theme of not only West Harlem Innovation Network, but this book I gave you on the Queens Night Market, of the power of blending various cultures. So instead of emphasizing one, which the Chinese normally do, for example, realizing that there are good points in other cultures, and if you combine them, you may have a more powerful engine to do anything you want.
Yes. And so we'll come now to, after doing that for McKinsey, and really I'm so amazed. How do you start a company from zero to just, McKinsey being in one country? So can you just give an example, for instance, of something that was a little difficult or a challenge?
Actually,
yes.
The consultants decided they wanted to do something. Most of the time, it was a consultant from a particular country. For example, the entire India practice was that we had 23 Indian partners, and 7 of them wanted to go back
from the
help.
United States.
Yes, wanted to go back to India to try to bring our strategic consulting to help build the major Indian firms. So they went with purpose, right?
So it wasn't that you were there and you have to look for partners within India. It's American of Indian descent. Or
yes.
China,
or immigrants.
Or immigrants here in the United States.
Yes, who became partners. And they wanted to go back to their countries. So, one of the individuals who was very instructive to me, mentoring, was John Katzenbach, who wrote the book Wisdom of Teams. And he explained, and it's also in our investing. you look for teams. Teams are powerful, just like diversity. So diversity in multiple individuals. Passion for what you're doing is important. So now the problem becomes a lot easier. You have people who are familiar with the country, passionate about going back to it, very, very talented, and they didn't really need me to add input. It just needed me to get entry so that we didn't have to change the principles, which is an international firm, not broken up into, if you go into a country like India or even Indonesia at the time, you had to work locally with a local establishment. And we always said no, and we were part of one firm. And we would establish a branch. And so I had to convince finance ministries that this was better in the long term. It would be a branch, and the people we grew and promoted would become partners of an international company versus isolated. And then we would bring the full force of what we allowed on a global scale.
Wow, that must take some doing.
Right. So they probably thought I was good at being articulating the principle and convincing individuals to do it.
Yes.
And that was an opportunity and a honed skill.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Yes. So you're Mr. International. I really admire that, being able to establish in 17 years 30 offices. Isn't that something? It's more or less?
Yes.
Yes.
32.
32. See, 32. I'm even wrong. In 17 years. Bravo. Yes. Bravo. Right. Yes. And after that, what made you say, all right, enough of this. I'd like to do something else.
Two things. I did, just because I like to set high goals, and I felt that I might be lucky enough to have several chapters in my life versus one chapter. When I graduated from law school, I made a bet with my best friend, and I said, wherever I am, I'm going to quit at age 45.
Really?
And he said, no, you won't do that. And I said, no, even if you become partner at your law firm, I said, I'm going to quit at 45.
How come? What was the idea behind?
Statistically, I thought there was a good chance that I would live to age 90 in good health. And so I said, look, 45. Actually, I thought I'd be 100, so a nice round number. 5 years off to think of the next thing, and then 50 doing the next. And if I was lucky enough, I'd do 5 more years and do the next thing. And right now, if you look at the stats, if you stay healthy, you might have the opportunity to have 3 chapters to your life. Now,
okay, did you hear that? Okay, setting a goal. He said he would quit whatever he's doing at 45 because, if you're all constantly on something, it might be too much on your body. Yeah, isn't it something like that? Why 45? 45 to 50.
The 45 was just an arbitrary number.
Yes.
It was 100 divided by 2 plus 5. Or it was 100 divided by 2 is 50, minus 5, 45, right?
Yes.
So the obviously, or I entered McKinsey in a legal role, and eventually was asked to structure the profit sharing throughout the firm because I understood motivation and everything else. So I was asked to do that. But I was very involved in the financial success, and I became CFO of McKinsey. So, which happens a lot of times. Lawyers do become CFOs. They realize you have transportable skills. So I became CFO of McKinsey, but then along the way, I married a woman. We had a daughter, and I was.
Is she Chinese, if may I ask?
My wife is Puerto Rican. She was born in Puerto Rico. So the joke is that no woman in our family has been born in the 50 states of the United States. Right. So my wife is Puerto Rican.
Okay.
Right? And
Yes. And you met her in
at McKinsey.
McKinsey.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
She was actually her mother didn't want her growing up in Puerto Rico. Took her to the Bronx, and
A New Yorker.
did not want her growing up in the Bronx and took her to New Jersey, but she wanted to grow up in New York, and she worked her way back into New York. We met
In McKinsey.
yes in McKinsey.
And who saw her first? I mean, who saw each other? Who had the eye on you or her first?
We had we don't know because we don't know, and she won't admit that I was on the whatever. One day she came and because we worked pretty close to each other, and told me about a trip she was going to take out west. I said, "Oh, that's fantastic," and suggested that she get enough water while hiking in the west, and said, "If you don't have canteens, I'll lend you some canteens. They're easy to transport." And she borrowed some canteens, told me all about the trip, and it was fascinating because she was pretty independent.
She did it on her own? I mean, she climbed mountains?
She went on her own with one other friend, another woman.
Yes.
And her attitude was, "I don't need a guy, I like to," and that's how we engage. And that piqued my interest.
Right. Yes, an independent woman.
Yes, in
Yes.
terms of just how our romance started. That's how it started. I wanted an independent woman. The second factor is I found that she really appreciated family, partly because she didn't have a real family together. Her father also died at a very early age, and she was the last of several children, and her brothers sort of left and went out on her own and so forth. So, but she figured it out. And I thought, well, that's really pretty amazing. So that's what started our romance. And I accuse her of, she was on the partner evaluation committee and realized
Before you were on the upswing.
Yes, before I was voted a partner, so she had all the data and info on me. I said, "So you searched me out," and she said, she denies that.
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
She knew I was up for partner, or partner candidate, and
A good future.
so that's what I accuse her of using inside information. Right.
That's great.
Right.
Yeah. But, being from a Chinese family, did that not cause some friction in the family since you did not marry within the tribe?
That's a very good question. I'll try to be brief on that. So my grandmother, when I was growing up, if I brought a date home, if she was not Chinese, anything other, even if she was Japanese, she would look on, that did not look like a Chinese woman, right? And you are not to marry outside the race, right? And words and concepts. Once you introduce something else in the race, it can never be pure again. What's the dialogue?
Yes.
And so, when I think about people, your product, she was not evil. That's the way she grew up.
That's the culture.
Yes. And so, I make allowances somewhat. Now, after you are educated and you don't learn, then you, I would say, have a moral issue. Now, I was busy doing other things. And so when my grandmother turned 79, she came up and she said, interestingly, "Hey, when are you going to get married?" And I said, "Look, I'm in this world, and I haven't found," I kidded her, "I haven't found a Chinese woman in this particular world." And she said, "It's okay if you marry outside the race."
Oh my goodness
Right.
gracious.
Now,
wow, that's big.
Yeah, it was big.
That's big.
Well, because she said, by having traveled the world, I said, "Grandma, you just want, a grandchild." She said, "No, I'm serious. I've now observed, and I've had the chance to observe, that there are good Chinese women and there are bad Chinese women. And there are actually, unbeknownst to me when I started, good white women. And so
she
said,
told that to you.
She said, just find a good person who loves your family.
Wow.
And I don't really care.
Absolutely.
But yes, it would have. My parents were, by then, they were fine. My mother never, ever told me, and nor did my father.
Yes. But they were, they're Americans already. Yes. Your grandmother. Yes. I know that in the Chinese culture.
Exactly.
Yes, it's purity of the race.
Right.
So I salute to your grandmother.
Yes.
In a way, because that freed you, in a way.
Right.
Didn't it?
So for a woman with, she didn't even have grade school education.
But she was wise.
Put two and two together over her life. And so those, by the time you get through a couple generations from that, persist. I think it's a terrible thing. And it's a moral issue. And I don't deal with moral people, immoral people.
Immoral, right. Yes. So thank you for that. I know whom you're going to vote for.
Right.
Now that you said you're going to go into something else, and that's when you decided to form this social impact group.
Yes, it actually started from the small. You take the small and you take it larger. As I said, I was on the board of the Museum of Chinese in America, so forth. We were raising capital. But at the same time, I grew to love New York City. Everything prior was get back to Hawaii. I had my very multicultural daughter, half Puerto Rican, half Chinese, and she loves the city, and I love the city now. I love it for the richness of diversity, the diversity it offers, and it became important to me to do something that brings down some of the tension in the city, and for all the Asian listeners, I decided to do something that bridges the gap. Look, we can sit and be proud of what we're accomplished, the glass ceilings we've broken, but it's important that we care for our community and people coming out of our community, but some of us should cross the line and try to bring along other people who have been left behind, right? It shouldn't just be our race. And so that's what it became important that I do that.
Yes. And for everyone, this is one of the social impact activity, which is, the book is the result of Queen's Night Market that you created, and where everyone, can you just please explain?
It was one of our, we have a fair amount of mentorship in what we do in Spring Mountain Capital, and we'll carry it through our companies. You focus on your business, but at the same time, it doesn't cost you anything to bring other people into the room and participate in that. So John Wang was one of our interns. He's a fascinating individual. 3 years at Michigan, 3 separate degrees with highest honors, individually, not joint. 1 year highest honors in mathematics, 1 year highest honors in cognitive science, cognitive psychology, and 1 year decided to do something different, so he got his BA in philosophy, then goes to Yale for his JD MBA. And he lands on my step, and he wants to be a lawyer. And I said, yes, you got a law degree, so be a lawyer for a couple of years, learn about M&A, and then become an entrepreneur. So he did that. And when he came out, he said, I want to do something in food that brings affordable food and creates entrepreneurship. And this is what I decided to do. He said he wanted to do a not-for-profit, and I said, no, I don't do not-for-profit. This should be in a format, which is what we're doing again. I'm convinced that if you are doing something that has social impact, if you can, you should turn it into a fundable format so that you attract other investors and take the load off philanthropy and government, so forth. It's your obligation to extend yourself, set a higher goal, to not just do that, but translate it. So he was the first of the individuals that convinced me that you could do it. So I said, fine, put it in a fundable format. And he thought about it. So the real credit is he thought hard about it, hard given with all his talents, and came up with the Queen's Night Market. And it is probably the best investment, highest return that I've ever invested in without violating the principle of having a positive social impact. He's the model of it. And if you saw the numbers behind it, it would be pretty, not that we've become billionaires, but it's not about billionaires. Why? Because billion is a number, right? It's whether a person realizes within his big or small, and I would say bigness actually is unfortunately become rooted in preserving the organization versus delivering the good, right? So he came up with this model, and it's been learning for me. He developed it, and so I give him credit for it. And this is a product of something he's done.
All right. Queen's Night Market. For those who do not know it, it happens every summer.
Yes, it's on Saturday night every summer from the middle of April to the end of October. In fact, this Saturday is the last Queen's Night Market event for this year.
I see. All right. So every summer for 1995, guys, go to Queens and you will
Saturday night,
right. And join the Queen's Night Market. So I'd like to take the questions from the audience, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yes. Okay. This is from Kumasi B. What is the West Harlem Innovation Network, and what makes its approach to impact investing unique?
It's an effort to democratize the participation of underrepresented minorities in life sciences and technology. When I say democratization, enable members of the underrepresented minority to participate in careers that are higher paying, right? It is also to enable individuals from the community. So it's not just about color, it's about communities. It's differentiated because there are lots of groups that fund a particular demographic, and they'll do it wherever. But we are doing it in a community because if we succeed, which I think we will with passion, talented people and so forth, these will be companies in the community and improve community wealth, right? So when Harlem, in this case, asks for a greater allocation for its public schools, it says, look, I'm not asking for an over allocation. We are generating this amount of revenues into Harlem. So our fair allocation is this. So it's focused on, number one, individuals and careers and higher paying jobs in life sciences and technology, of which there is a shortage because of lack of opportunity. But it's also, if they build companies in their communities, It should improve community health and hopefully have downstream effects if you get people who are morally and responsible and aware, turn their companies into supporting other people who have been left behind in the community. So that's number one. Number two, topically, just because I only invest in things I know something about and can add value, the focus is on life sciences and education. The passion element is to address diseases in life sciences that impact in Harlem the Black community, and in terms of morbidity and death, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, greater impact. In terms of cancer, which we have great relationships, is breast cancer and prostate cancer. So we're going to be focused on companies that improve the health of underrepresented minorities, which means we're going to be in Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and breast cancer and prostate cancer.
Yes. So this will be businesses that involves doctors and nurses rather than the prevention of those illnesses, because I think diet, nutrition, supermarkets, it starts with a business that services the community, but services them in a way that will promote health.
Yes.
Because what I know is that when supermarkets go over there, they give the worst kind of beef and no fresh vegetables, or they're very expensive.
I really appreciate you putting out that point. In the life sciences side, we'll actually be looking at cures, but also because we're into longevity to, prevent Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, food is a very large element. So we will invest in food, which is why John Wang is part of the equation. You mentioned affordability, you're exactly right. So the type of company that we would put up for is the creation of a food cooperative like the Park Slope Food Cooperative, which we proposed to several groups in Harlem, city as well as institutions with property, to set up Park Slope Food Cooperative with an emphasis on sustainably grown food that is healthy. But food as science, not just nutritional. We go beyond nutritional. We take a look at, very simple example, we're looking at urban farming. Our first play would be mushrooms, not base level mushrooms, but mushrooms that, number one, are high in protein, so higher grade mushrooms. And number two, studying those mushrooms for the compounds that might accelerate the development of other things, The cholesterol reducing statins come out of the shiitake mushroom, right? I think if you look at the literature, there's lots of other things that might come out of mushrooms that might address problems. So food is a very, very important part. Sustainable is very important. Affordable, right? We're about the community, so we're going to focus on affordable.
Very good. But that is a challenge in terms of the food, changing food habits. But I wish you well. So this just starting that, the West Harlem Initiative Innovation Network. It's just starting.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we launched it. When you do a venture fund or any new fund or new concept fund, there are several requirements. You got to set it down. You have to put some capital, and you have to have certain companies to illustrate the concept.
Yes.
And we've done that. So we've done that. It's taken a bunch of years, and we have several companies already to show. Then you realize, there's a series of hurdles. You have to run your second fund, and then your third fund. So it's a long process. So hopefully the appeal of the social impact will draw some of the forward-looking foundations, like Ford, into thinking of investments, because I believe, if you believe in the proposition and the ingredients that you've written about in your book, passion, talent, the availability of this talent, that it will actually succeed. And you look through the strictures of past performance as being the measure, you're a believer, you'll get that. So right now, I think we have illustrations, and hopefully some of the not-for-profit foundations will realize, we should dedicate some of our capital to investing in that. Which, if you read the book by Judith Rodin, who was formerly of the Rockefeller Foundation, wrote, this is beginning to happen.
What is her title? What is the title of her book? Judith Rodin.
Judith Rodin's book is titled Moral Money, Making Money Moral, I believe. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And it goes in the language of do well by doing good.
That's really the philosophy of social impact. Right.
But you see, if you've been in the investment world, you want to draw investment capital and you want to draw a lot of it. The motto in West Harlem Innovation Network is, and I say, look, I never aspired to do well. I set my goals high, right? And so that we don't diss anybody, we are aspiring to do distinctively well by doing distinctive good.
Wow. Right? High ambition.
Right.
That is high ambition.
You set your goals high. Just like you said, but just like my mentor, John Katzenbach, said, you want to create great teams, you have to have a high goal. Then the other parts are assembling people who are aligned with that goal. Diversity, bring separate contributions, accountability. And you know that when you reshape your corporation and so forth. Accountability to a common goal versus separate agendas. And those are the elements that we are incorporating. So that's why when I read your book, it was just an absolute pleasure to come across someone that connects, because I don't have time to write the book, and I'm really glad you did. So
you have to write the book, Greg. Right. You have to write the book. A lot of people will profit by it. But the secret is finding a co-writer whose business is writing memoirs. So if you go to Barnes & Noble, most of them, except Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, most of them have a co-writer like me, Blair Walker. Okay, all of these have an and or with. Mm-hmm. So that's one subject or one task that maybe you should start thinking about among all the other things that you are doing.
Someone wrote me today and said, somebody wrote in and said, we should talk with you. I wrote them back, and this is truly the way I feel. I haven't done anything significant enough to write about. No, I haven't. When you
You're very modest.
When you look at there are so many other individuals. And I'm glad you wrote the book. You've already done that. In fact, when I take a look at some of the concepts that you've mentioned in there, I mentioned to my group, I truly did the other day. Here's somebody who thought about, she lived it, but she also crossing the line and reaching out Asians and blacks. Very important. I think you've accomplished, and so write the book after accomplishing. then it'll be a bestseller.
No, that's another story. Right. Now, this is from Libby W. How do you stay healthy and continue to thrive with such in the workforce? Because you do. You are
a long time ago, Robin Hood Foundation asked me if I would run a marathon. I said I can't because I have bad knees. They said, but you could raise a lot of money. I said, yeah, a lot of people pay a lot of money if I ran. But because I'm so aligned with the purpose of Robin Hood, education, caring for people in this focus on New York City. I thought about it. I trained for a year, and I went to my cardiologist. They said, okay, you can do it. I went to my orthopedic surgeon, and he said, 1, maybe 2, but then you'll be a bone on bone. And
What does that mean, 1?
1 marathon.
Oh, 1 marathon.
Don't think of run, okay?
Yeah.
So I did, but then I saw the health benefits, extreme, and raised a lot of money and inspired a lot of people. And so I've run and found that look, if you're lucky enough, if God, destiny is such that you have a long life, the shot at it, you should do your part in it, right? And that's the theme even on the food part. You should do your part. And so I decided long-term goal, I'm going to run my 100th marathon at age 100.
100?
So I had to play catch up, and I've run just on Sunday when I was listening to your book, which gave me a lot of motivation to run. I did a virtual Marine Corps marathon, and unfortunately, your vocal version of your book is 8 hours and 53 minutes, and it only took me 6 hours. So I completed it this morning, but I plan to run my 100th marathon at age 100.
Oh my goodness gracious. Did you see that? He's always setting high goals. So when the doctor said maybe 2, you exceeded 2.
Yes. And he went back and he interestingly found, okay, come back if it hurts, but you can keep on running. Then I checked up with him after 13 and he said, you're still running?
It's 13 marathons.
And then I said, take a look at my knee. And he said, there's no change. In fact, the osteoarthritis has gone away. I don't see it anymore, at least. And then I saw him after 23. And he said,
23 marathons.
Right. And then so Sunday was my 44th.
44 marathons. Right. Oh my goodness. Right. And you say you have no book to write, please. All right, here is a man who has done so many. Incredible.
You gotta wait for the 100.
Incredible. Well, I have a title for your book already. So this is the last question from Jack J. What would you say is your favorite New York thing to do, and what gives you the most joy these days? That's a good question, Jack.
It's getting together with my wife and daughter, and hearing her answer to my question, which I used to give her every day when she was living with us, when she'd come home from work. What genius thing did you do today?
Wow!
Right,
and she would answer.
Sometimes she'd say, "Well." Nothing, and we'd give the sad look. But she knows she's going to have that question. Every day she comes home. Mm-hmm. And not feeling resentment about it, but rejoicing that realizing that the genius thing you do in your life can be several things. So that's the most fun thing that I look forward to, which is also to answer your question. I also left because I was traveling too much and my daughter was born, and I realized that I wouldn't share in her development. So I quit and spent 3 years at home till she went to
nursery.
Well, she was in nursery at age 2. So at age 3, I quit, and McKinsey, it was dovetailed with my 45th birthday, and spent 3 years, but also gave me a chance to go home to Hawaii to play golf with my father, because after I left at age 18, never really went back. And so once a month for 3 years, I went back and played golf with my father.
You see that? Family values, so strong. Well, with that, we will end. Greg,
Thank
this
you.
is a marvelous, marvelous
It
sharing.
was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending the
Thank
time
you.
and providing me this opportunity.
Thank you for
and,
that wisdom.
Right, and thank you for writing that book, which was really very, very inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you. So now you have it. This is the Loida Lewis Podcast. Live, love, laugh, and learn together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you.
That's terrific. Oh my God, you need a co-writer. You have done so much. You have done so much.
The Loida Lewis Podcast, hosted by Loida Lewis, is produced by the creators of Over a Glass or Two, Jesse and JV, executive produced by Laura Nicholas Olace. Rate and review us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for a chance to be featured on a future episode. Have a question for Miss Loida? Just email us on askloidalewis@gmail.com. Your question might make its way to a future episode. Subscribe on all major platforms to never miss a beat. Thank you for listening to the Loida Lewis Podcast. Let's live, love, laugh, and learn together